Welcome to Mental Performance Unleashed with Emily Heard.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to an all new episode of Mental Performance Unleashed with Emily Heard. I'm your host, Mike Leon. You know, Emily's a licensed psychotherapist and certified mental performance mastery coach. She helps attorneys and legal leaders operate like intellectual athletes, achieving business results with high levels of well-being. And in today's episode, we're going to explore the ways that lawyers can learn from elite athletes about consistency, mindset, and recovery. So, Emily, good to see you. Let's start with this high-level 30,000-foot overview. What are some of the parallels that you see between professional athletes and lawyers who are working under high pressure?
Well, thank you, Mike, for having me. I am excited to talk about this topic today. There are a number of parallels that I see between the sports industry and the legal industry that other people might not appreciate. And in fact, in 2023, after the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes was asked to compare his profession as a quarterback to another profession out there. And he said a top tier litigator. He sees the parallels too. So in both industries, there is a constant pressure to perform consistently at high levels. There's little room for error or mental mistakes. There is judgment from other people, whether that's the actual judge in the case or your clients are evaluating your performance or your colleagues and the partners at the firm. It takes a lot of dedication and energy and investment in the profession, but also in sports to achieve those long-term goals. And the sports industry also has similar levels of mental health issues and types of mental health issues and burnout percentages that the legal industry does as well.
Yeah. As a Raider fan, I hate the Patrick Mahomes reference, but we'll move on from that, Emily. So let me ask you, because, you know, I work in the sports space right now. I'm around a lot of professional athletes. They prioritize rest and recovery. How can attorneys kind of apply those same principles of effectively recovering during these demanding periods, like you said, because they do suffer from burnout?
So one thing that athletes, one mindset, non-negotiable mindset piece that athletes have is that recovery is a non-negotiable. It is integral to their performance. We had the US Open, just finished that up yesterday, and throughout the tournament, we heard Novak Djokovic talk about the increased amount of time that he has to spend in recovery at his age to keep up with the younger performers on the court. So oftentimes lawyers will sacrifice recovery and rest in the name of getting the job done, but that's actually counterproductive to their performance. So there are a few ways that we can integrate rest and recovery into our days and into demanding periods. Throughout the day, weaving in micro breaks and micro periods of recovery to sustain energy and focus is essential. You know, a lot of lawyers sit down at the computer for 8 to 10 to 12 hours straight, and they don't take any breaks. But your brain needs time to recharge its attentional capacity. So this could be going outside for 5 minutes and looking at nature. It could be getting an exercise snack in, doing 20 push-ups, or keeping a set of hand weights handy and doing some bicep curls. It could be socializing with a colleague in the office for 5 minutes about non-legal topics. But weaving in these periods of rest and recovery throughout the day is going to help sustain the energy and the focus so that you can be more efficient with your workday. And then for longer periods of recovery, we have active recovery and more passive. Passive is going to be things like sleep or when your body is physically at rest. Active recovery is going to be something that mentally engages your mind. So this could be socializing, it could be engaging in hobbies. We also have physical aspects of recovery like massage and exercise and stretching out, releasing the tension that lots of lawyers carry in their bodies. So there's all kinds of different ways, but a crucial mindset shift is to reframe recovery as productive. This is foundational to your sustainable success in the industry.
You know, Emily, I used to play baseball myself. I had a bunch of wonky pregame rituals that I would do. What is maybe a transitive property that lawyers could adopt from those type of rituals, Before, let's say, like a court appearance, negotiations, depositions, what are some ways that you would recommend?
Yeah, so we can liken this to, the baseball players don't just show up, put on their uniform, and step into their first at bat. I'm sure you, like you said, you had those pregame rituals to warm up the muscles and the mind. So lawyers need to have the same very short type of performance ritual to get into lawyer mode. So from a physical perspective, a physical component, this could be rolling out the shoulders, loosening, stretching out the body. It could be standing taller, keeping your head back, that presence that you want to have in the courtroom or in the deposition room. Mentally, we want to anchor ourselves into some mantras or into some helpful phrases that are going to connect to our sense of self-confidence and trust in our ability to handle whatever unfolds that day. And then emotionally connect back to your principles, your vision, and the why. Why are you showing up and helping your client and getting the best results possible?
You mentioned mental health just a second ago. And so everybody knows that there's like a common phrase depending upon the sport. It's 80% physical, 20% mental, whatever it is, depending upon the sport. What mental exercises that are, potentially used by athletes do you think lawyers can adopt to help enhance that focus and that resiliency in these stressful situations?
Yeah, so athletes routinely work with mental performance coaches. They see this as a strength and as a secret to their success, not a weakness. Whereas lots of lawyers tend to view working with a mental performance coach or working on their mental fitness as a weakness or something that they should be able to figure out on their own. But some strategies that lawyers can adopt from athletes and what athletes do to maintain resilience and focus. If we work on focus, one of the activities that I teach my clients is the red, yellow, and green light for performance. So let's say it is a courtroom scenario. They would look at what their body language, their focus, and their self-talk is at a red light, a yellow light, and a green light for performance. And they start to gain awareness for when they're at that yellow light, when they're starting to feel out of control for their performance. And then we set up what's called their triple R reset routine. So a 3-step process where they can quickly reset their focus, get their emotional control back into place, and focus on what they need to be in control of for that performance. Another strategy that my clients hear me talk about all the time is to control the controllables. Athletes focus on their sphere of influence. What can they control? So for lawyers, similar things. You have control over your preparation, your attitude, your response to circumstances, unexpected circumstances. You have control over your energy levels, your sleep, your nutrition, all of those things. What you don't have control over is who the judge is, what their mood is that day, what opposing counsel's strategies are, the facts of the case, or even your client's ongoing decisions and behaviors. So at any given moment, when you start to feel like you're losing focus or anxiety is increasing, ask yourself, what is within my control at this moment? What is the best use of my mental energy? And that can really help you reset the focus.
I want to go back to something you said in the previous answer about emotional fitness. I'd love for you to kind of elaborate on that in terms of how do lawyers develop the same kind of emotional fitness that athletes rely on to perform well under pressure?
So athletes understand that emotions are part of the game. They understand that anxiety is going to happen. Anger and frustration are going to happen throughout the game, but they learn to perform alongside it instead of either A, suppressing it, which is what most lawyers are taught to do, or B, letting it run the show and reacting instead of responding intentionally. So the first thing that lawyers can do is to start to become aware of their emotional state and to start to name it in the moment. I notice I'm feeling anxious about this deposition. I notice I'm feeling frustrated by opposing counsel's tactics rather than opposing counsel's being such a jerk. Notice it, name it, and then ask, how do I want to respond intentionally in this moment without letting the emotions run the show or get your performance out of control.
I love these parallels and analogies to the sports world. It's coming from the sports world. And one other analogy and parallel is reviewing game tape. You got to improve, right? You got to watch what you made mistakes on the field. What's the legal equivalent of that that they can practice? And how can lawyers use it to develop their skills instead of just focusing on their mistakes?
I love this one. And yeah, I call it reviewing the tape as well. So it's intentionally looking at your performance from the perspective of curiosity and non-judgmentalness, observing what unfolded. So if an athlete makes a mistake, let's say the quarterback throws an interception, you will see them reviewing the tape on the sidelines to see exactly what happened and what needs to be improved moving forward. So for the lawyer, this might be intentionally reviewing a performance in a deposition and identifying what went well, why it went well, what is something that they learned, what is the skill that they need to improve on moving forward, or that they want to take into their next deposition experience. This is a continual mindset of growth and improvement rather than focusing on what didn't go well and beating themselves up, that inner critic that is so prevalent in the legal mind and in perfectionism. I also have my lawyers who oversee teams implement this strategy as well. So if the team made a mistake or someone on the team made a mistake, something went awry, you review the tape, you look at the sequence of events, you identify where the breakdown happened, you see what parts of the process need to be tightened up, and it's addressed from that perspective of, we can't do anything about what happened, but we can refine our process and improve for moving forward.
Emily, in a previous episode, you mentioned about you come from this family of attorneys. So this is what made you kind of want to start some of this. But one thing we haven't touched on is this work-life balance, right? Because between professional and personal, there's got to be some type of balance. How can lawyers, just like athletes who go through the same process, how can they shift between professional and personal lives to maintain a better work-life balance?
Absolutely. And this is where the pre-performance ritual that we were talking about earlier can come into play. Whether you are in the office that day or in courtroom, wherever you are, we have a pre-performance ritual to turn on lawyer mode. Then we have a post-work ritual to turn off lawyer mode. So athletes are really great at compartmentalizing. When they are in athlete mode, performance mode, they're dialed in. They are where their feet are. And then when they're at home, they're disconnected from athlete mode and they are where their feet are. So lawyers can adopt this same type of strategy to turn lawyer mode on and to turn lawyer mode off. And then a key part of this is that presence piece. I am where my feet are. We have to get mental disconnection from our work as well. And with our phones, it's very easy to feel the pressure to always be on and to be checking our devices all of the time, but that eats into our rest and recovery and keeps the chronic stress flowing in our body. So like athletes, we have to be very intentional and have these transition rituals, shifting into lawyer mode and shifting out of lawyer mode. After work, it can be something as simple as, reviewing 3 things that went well that day, tidying up your office, and then doing some sort of transition that you do every day, whether that's taking a 5-minute walk, changing your clothes, or some days, those people that have kids and are going into parent mode, transport mode, it's taking a deep breath and saying, okay, now I'm in mom mode. And as a mom mode, I am, and then fill in the blanks about how you want to show up as a mom.
Emily, let's land the plane on this. What are a couple of practices lawyers right now can borrow from athletes to foster a culture that promotes motivation and well-being?
A couple practices. One is to dial into your why, to really get connected to your principles and your anchors, and to define what success means to you. One of the first activities that I have my clients do is to define what success means to them in that season of life, not based on what society or the legal industry tells you what success is, but what your definition of success is. And then they create a 90-day plan, a mission, vision, and principles plan for how they want to spend their time and who they want to be that is aligned with those definitions of success. And then after those 90 days, they can do an audit to see how well they lived out those definitions of success. But it's routinely pausing and evaluating, am I living the life that is in accordance to my definition of fulfillment, or am I living someone else's definition of fulfillment for my life? And in that way, you don't find yourself at 40 and you look up and you realize that you are miserable even though you've made partner.
Emily, thank you so much for the time and insights on all this. We truly appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me, Mike.
And thank you to everybody out there for listening to another episode of Mental Performance Unleashed with Emily Hurd. Athletes, lawyers, the parallels. If you'd like to learn more of these strategies to perform so you can be at your best without burning out, do me a favor right now. Visit vantageviewcoaching.com to connect with Emily. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review, send this episode to someone that needs to listen to it. As always, I'm Mike Leon. We'll see everybody next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.